We're going to kick things off here with the Irish Times. You only came in about 5 minutes before we came to air, so you haven't had an opportunity to have.
No, I haven't. It's a lovely picture.
But it's a good shot. Yeah, it's hurling all the way in the front page of the Irish Times sports section. It's Jackie Tyrrell here. Galway have the experience and ruthlessness to get the job done, and that really is very much the pivot point you suspected this game. The inexperience of that Limerick team, and we don't know how they're going to react. Kiley confident his charges can rise to the biggest occasion. So it's pretty much along the same theme there as well, and it's so GA really.
How close are the teams in terms of quality, Adrian? I know people lean on the experience angle a lot, and I understand it to a point, but I think it can generally be overplayed. The kind of experience one in terms of the quality of the side, obviously know better than me in terms of the. They're calling it as
a 50-50 game.
Really? It's close to that.
The experience thing, look, it can be a bit of a cliche in sport. People sort of can use it.
I think it can, to be honest. It's a bit of a lazy one.
But in this instance, I think there's something in it. Like it is a very, very, very young Limerick team that I think people believe are going to win All Ireland's. It's just whether it's going to be this year or not. Like there's undoubted quality about that Limerick team. Whereas Galway, having won it last year for the first time since '88, they have that bank of recent experience to go on. They've just been patchy is the thing that has been about Galway. They've sort of come out of the blocks in the last few games, particularly against Kilkenny and Clare, blown them out of the water really, like to the point where after 20 minutes in some of those games you thought the game was done, like 9 points up. And then just foot off the gas, allowing Clare back into it. To the point where you thought that's it, Galway are done, and then to their credit, obviously they've seen things out by not very much in the end. So it's just the patchiness of Galway.
But if they're that good, that Limerick side, I guess they will have that breakthrough moment. That game will come. It has to happen at some point. I say they haven't won an Ireland, but it will happen.
They've won underage too, So.
Yeah. So. Yeah, I'll be interested. I didn't realise it was that close. I felt a couple of people leaning towards Galway, but that's the experience I understand.
Galway are favourites, but there's not much in it all.
Yeah, Galway are favourites based on quality. I think they are a better team than Limerick. I'm not.
When you say about what you mean by better,
they have literally better players.
That's the question I asked. Like Asian was suggesting, there's nothing between them.
In terms of quality. It seems that the conversation has been skewed quite a bit by this Galway powerhouse start that we've seen on 3 occasions this summer, and the subsequent comebacks from the other teams, which I do think has to do a lot with how other teams are reacting to Galway. And maybe we'll know a lot more on Sunday, but maybe there is a fault in Galway's game plan that they can't adapt to being in such a huge leading position in quite a number of games. But I don't think there's any question that they've got better players than Limerick. Maybe one day Limerick will prove that these players are on Galway's level. These are all Ireland winners. They're an exceptional group of young players, this Limerick team. But even if you look at where those Limerick players can go, you look at Galway's best young player, you look at someone like Conor Whelan. Really, I think there's an argument that Conor Whelan is better than any of the young Limerick players. He's the reigning young hurler of the year. The chance that young hurler of the year will go to Limerick.
He probably is. Some of them, I may be misreading your point, but you seem to be suggesting there's a gulf between Limerick and Galway, or a gulf between the quality of the players in Limerick and Galway. And for me, that isn't the case. I think there's
I think
enough to suggest that Limerick could. There's definitely enough to suggest that Limerick could get it done this weekend.
Yes. But I think the conversation has been moved to the point where people are starting to think that these two teams, on paper, are the very, very same. Galway are a better team than Limerick. I don't think there is an argument around it. Of course, you can argue either way, but I think quite convincingly Galway are a better team than Limerick. But on the day, the heart that Limerick have shown, that youth is actually, when it comes to experience, I agree with you, it can sometimes be a complete nonsense argument. It's actually the energy that Limerick have this year. John Kiley, speaking earlier in the summer, great line, saying that I don't want the team playing well to become a burden for this team, because quite often it does, particularly with an older team, it can become a burden, whereas there is no burden about the quality with which Limerick have played this summer, because they've never been here before. They don't know what the pressure is like. It's fantastic.
But how did they cope with the pressure at the semi-final? It was a replay the semi-final.
No, we went to extra time.
Extra time.
Yeah,
well, how did
they blitzed it in extra time then?
Yeah,
that's a pretty pressurised environment right there in terms of what's at stake in terms of the prize in All Ireland final. So there's small indicators in terms of if they've dealt with that. Not only dealt with it, you're saying they actually blitzed them in extra time. Well, there's indicators there in terms of the kind of psychology, that lack of experience actually may not be. In fact, the younger players may actually revel in it, going forward. They might, in that kind of pressurised environment, that might actually draw the very best out of them. You could make the counter argument.
For sure. Like, I think it's huge testament to John Kiley that they're in this position, that we're all taking them really, really seriously. And this may seem like a complete contradiction with everything I've just said, but I'm with you. I actually fancy Limerick to win at the weekend, but I think they're going to do it with a weaker bunch of players, particularly when it comes to the starting 15. Like, that kick that we saw from Limerick in extra time against Cork is the reason why I think they're going to win on Sunday. Because when it comes down the line and there are these players coming off the bench that aren't as good as Galway's players, they look around and they're playing with this unbelievable freedom. Like Shane Dowling, like what a performance that was against Cork when he came out.
Difficult to repeat now, wasn't it? Like, what did he score? Was it a goal or 2 goals and 3 or 4, whatever it was? Their bench was the biggest impact in the semi-final, and this is the thing that everybody's been speaking about, is slightly less of a disparity. Cork had nothing on the bench, Galway will have something, so there isn't quite that much disparity. We actually are going in the opposite direction, because I actually think Galway are going to win.
This has been the strangest debate I've ever been involved in.
No, I'm suggesting there isn't a huge amount between them. Ultimately, look, there are factors that you can say.
Well, that's interesting, because people say, oh, they're the better team, but when you actually break that down, I'm always interested in why they're the better team. What are you factoring in there in terms of individual qualities? But then you talk about team, then you talk about team organisation, like the tactical setups of the team. You bring in psychology as well in terms of the experience of Galway, having been there, done it. So you got to factor all of those things in when you kind of make your argument, as opposed, well, they're the better team. Oh, fair enough then.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I actually think Galway are going to get it done this weekend, probably not by a huge amount. I think that Limerick will take great encouragement, having from a few games this year come from significant disadvantages to come back within games deficits and get the job done. And also they've been looking at Galway, and like, it actually to a degree the start won't really matter. Like, if Limerick do find themselves 7 or 8 points down, they'll just go, well, look at A, we've come back from those sort of deficits easily before, and B, Galway have coughed up those leads. The recent evidence is all there. So, like, I don't think they'll get spooked necessarily if they
That's the beauty of the game. I'd even say, just twisting it from a neutral's perspective, I don't watch a huge amount of hurling. Obviously, I dip my toe. I'll be watching the game Sunday if I can back in London. But that kind of, 7, 8 points maybe in the game, the football, you may be picking up the remote control and maybe switching over. But the nature of the game, the hurling, 7, 8 points can disappear in a 10-minute spell, like, you know what I mean? And that's the beauty of the game, the attraction, and why I think we're hearing a lot of positive vibes around the game, not just from traditional hurling people, but broadly across, Ireland, UK, whatever, and just people just dipping their toe in and having a look at the game and thinking, "Whoa, this is pretty exhilarating stuff here." Like, how the game can swing from end to end.
I think it's actually quite similar to how I was looking ahead to Liverpool against Real Madrid in the Champions League final. You had one team who were obviously reigning champions, who had the most iconic footballer in the competition in Ronaldo. Obviously, you've got Joe Canning here with Galway, and you've got like this historical weight that might have been on Liverpool. Not as historic as the weight that Limerick are feeling, admittedly, this weekend. It's a little bit longer.
Limerick are not the Liverpool.
But I'll take your point.
There is a huge drought, and I think certainly coming from the base of it, it's like clearly you could see why people might have tipped Liverpool for that game, despite the fact that there is no question that Real Madrid had the better players. I think that's the same this weekend. I think it is well within anybody's remit to say that Limerick can win this game, while also admitting that Galway have the better individual players.
The beauty of the game is you
covering all bases there.
yeah.
That is what I believe will happen. I think.
Yeah, but the things you can factor in, you make the analogy of the Liverpool game. Who would have thought, Salah, walking off the pitch after 20 minutes? So we can talk about a load of different things, individual quality, but things like that, like spontaneous acts like that pitch, sending off, maybe key player getting sent off, one of those key young players you were talking about, can change the whole dynamic of the game. That's the beauty of it. You don't know.
Everton, maybe Limerick and Everton, sort of like historical success.
Shrewsbury Town,
a lot of young players coming through. The Irish Independent is next up on our not so whistle stop tour of the back pages this morning, and the picture that dominates things is here of TJ Dohney, who was crowned IBF World Super Bantamweight Champion in Japan yesterday. He's from Portlaoise, residing in Australia, and was sort of not expected. A little bit of controversy about this, where he some of the commentators ringside were kind of saying that it was a bit of a sham, that he didn't. I haven't seen the fight, but some of them suggesting that, in ways, actually, a lot of the language struck me as ways that we would have spoken about fights previously, or you know the way boxing, sometimes you're looking at it going,
it wasn't a sham.
Some of the
scoring agent
here. Some of them were suggesting that him winning was a sham. They were like, the language was strong and suggesting that there was no way this guy won it.
Like you could make a reasonable opinion that maybe it could have swung the other way, but I didn't hear it, but I'd be very surprised if somebody was calling it a sham. Like, I mean, that's a disgraceful thing to say about
that was not the word
result.
that was used, but it was that sort of language. I can't think off the top of my head. I read his quotes last night of who the commentator was that had said it, but there was definitely a sort of bang of the Mick Conlon-Rio situation about it from the language that he was using. But
it's great to see the Burnett fight might be on the cards. Actually, the back of the Indo carrying that as well. That'll be a huge fight from an Irish perspective.
Yeah. Limerick's form gives them the edge, says Kieran Carey here as well. This is more reflections on the hurling, obviously. And John Delaney, we priced tickets too high, but we will clear the debt. So an admission of from John Delaney that maybe at from €1,200 to €3,200 for those premium level tickets, that maybe they were a little bit too high, but says that they will be debt clear
2020. I read that the other day. I was in an the other day. Well, that's good news, because they'll be issuing another 10-year then, won't it? Another 10-year game potentially then going forward. So
fair enough too. Like, it's like we made a mistake and it wasn't the right price, and put our hands up. And I mean, the promise was that they were going to be clear by 2020 anyway, and they've obviously discussed it. I was going to say,
I mean, that's highly unlikely. Like, the amount in different sports in terms of, to see the actual debt cleared in the agreed time is very unusual.
Yeah.
We've grown accustomed to seeing, well, extra 2, 3, the debt actually increasing, going in the opposite direction. Stadium debt, etc. New stadiums, going to be Tottenham example, probably being the biggest example of that. So I know what you're saying in terms of the initial cost of the tickets, and a lot of, the debt was restructured as well some years ago as well, and that jumped out from a huge amount. The interest payments, man, that was a good deal. I think they struck to give the FAI a little bit of credit there. So if they're actually saying, I know it's 2 years away, but I think the debt's down to, it's about between 20 and 30 million at the moment. Well, if he's saying realistically we're going to be debt free in 2020, I think you'd have to give them a bit of credit. I think you'd give John a little bit of credit there.
They could have kicked it on for a few years, obviously, like extended out the debt and maybe reinvest in the game, but like maybe it's the wisest thing to clear it all and then have a blank slate, and whatever money's coming in, you get to reinvest it wherever you choose to reinvest it. And
I think that's actually a bit of a good news story, though people probably wouldn't say it that way.
The Irish Examiner this morning, needless to say, with Limerick involved, it's hurling on the front page here. A game of inches, Ed Collin. Victory to those who find the calm within the chaos, which is a nice little tasty headline there as to what's going on inside the newspaper. Martin O'Neill, it's essential we master certain things if we're going to improve. It's a pretty, this I think is the Liam Mackey piece it's selling forward to. It is, the inside of the newspaper. There was better stuff than that, actually. It's essential we master certain things if we're going to improve. There was probably better stuff within the article than that to sell.
I guess Martin broke it down what certain things are in the actual article.
He did actually. I don't know if you're saying that sarcastically.
No, I'm not. I'm just. But that's.
He did actually get into a lot of stuff about how Ireland played. Liam Mackey does a fine piece with him. It's probably one of the better ones that kind of best describes where Martin O'Neill is at right now. Obviously out of the heat of competition, and not that sort of, as Liam Mackey puts it, that sort of tetchy character that we tend to get at times, obviously around games. He was saying that like he was a bit more relaxed, but also quite animated and sort of very demonstrative when it came to talking about certain tactics, and spoke about Ireland-wide players and how they might. Sometimes we might choose to take that channel. We might choose to play the ball down the channel, whereas actually that might not be the right thing to do if you have somebody coming, around the outside and we're playing it down that channel, but the centre forward's on the opposite side. I think frequently people will paint Martin O'Neill in a way that suggests he hasn't got a clue about tactics or whatever, whereas he's at pains, and it's clear in this piece, to talk about a lot of specifics. I mean,
Well, I think what the most important thing about that's interesting. I'm always interested in listening to people talk, but as long as that's been replicated in the dressing room and on the training pitch with the players, that type of detail, that's what you want, because that's kind of coaching. Yeah. So there's individual responsibility. Players understand the game, they know the game, so you got to trust them, go out and make the right decisions on the pitch, which is kind of what Martin's alluding to there. When you pass the ball, overlapping, pass selection, good decision making on the pitch. But also, I think as a manager, as a coach, generally speaking, you can help your players. You can help our players by setting out your set patterns of play during the course of the week leading up to the game. So players going into the games, they know what their next pass is going to be. They know their kind of set patterns when they get the ball, what their options are going to be, because it's actually been drilled on the training pitch day in, day out. So I think they go kind of hand in glove. Individual responsibility, go and play as you see it. but also from a management coaching point of view, getting organised, being tactically set up correctly, and giving the players clear pictures on the pitch of what you want from them in and out possession of the ball. And yes, you can deviate away from that at times. It's a fast-flowing game. The game kind of changes, and players will, you know, alter the game accordingly. But by and large, for me, the players need a real clear focus in terms of how they want to play in and out possession of the football, and that's the manager's, coach's responsibility to get those clear pictures across to the players. And you can only do it on the training pitch, and you do it in the analysis room as well. One complements the other. So players should be going onto the pitch confident because they know nothing's going to happen on this pitch that I'm not prepared for.
And not always the case necessarily, given that, you know, some of the players that we've heard who've worked under Martin O'Neill in this Irish setup wouldn't always tell you that's exactly the case. That at times appears there can be a bit of confusion about tactical approach, but I mean, it's clearly all there. There's a guy who's obviously come through some pretty intense coaching schools, and he talks about Brian Clough in the piece as well. So anyway, we'll have more reflections on that. There's other stuff to say about Declan Rice and lots of other stuff, so we'll come to that a little bit later on. We've got the Times Ireland edition, which is our next stop here. FAI refusing to rule out betting links. Funds important despite Ladbrokes deal ending, writes John Fallon here. So this is John Delaney's thoughts. This has been mooted a few weeks back, that the FAI were to pull the pin, as the GAA have done, with any relations or sponsorships with gambling companies. So there's still 40 million actually is the figure, Kenny, in debt, and you know, so it's essentially a public weighing up of whether it's right or wrong for them to be involved with a betting partner. And John Delaney says they'll take their time internally, they'll discuss it, and whenever those discussions are had, they'll publicly come out and inform people which way they're going to go. Paul Keane also writes here, Dublin boost as O'Sullivan fit for the final. So Keane O'Sullivan is going to be fit, the 5 times All-Ireland winner, to take his place. Pretty important player in that Dublin setup. That's the Times Ireland edition. And we'll wrap with the Racing Post here. Swans can fly home with a point. It's Gary Monk, it's Swansea, it's Birmingham Swansea.
On the Blues.
Tonight, 7:45. Do you get any Birmingham games these days? Did you leave there in good terms? Or bad terms?
No, I really enjoyed my time at the club. I was there 4 years. It ended bad because we were relegated my last year there, so that left was there a bit of a ding dong between you and the club, or was it Steve Bruce afterwards? No, maybe a conversation another day, Adrian. I think conversation another day. But I really enjoyed my time at the football club. Great support. And it was a good old time there, to be honest. It was up and down a little bit kind of chaotic, but I was a little bit kind of, I was a bit down when I left there, to be honest. I was 35 when I left there. I only played for the year after. I mean, last year there I didn't play well. At all. I was struggling physically. I couldn't play to the level that I wanted. So all of those things, you know what it is, older pro, you're a bit bitter and twisted, and you're not playing at the level that you want. Obviously we got relegated off the back of it. So in one way, you feel you're walking away, but you think you kind of let the club down a little bit. When you walked in the door, the club had been promoted into the top division. Now you're walking out the door at the end of your contract, and the club's been relegated back. So a little bit of conflicting emotions when I left. I had a great time there and enjoyed my football to a point, but ultimately felt as if it kind of, you know, job not really done. And you know, you do a little bit of kind of you haven't left the club in a better place than when you first arrived. But yeah, it's no different than emotions most players go through, I'd imagine. Yeah,
well, I mean, we could have this more. We'd have a deeper discussion on this, Kenny. But I sense that you're not going to give us the good stuff. I do remember there was more.
You're not going to let it go now.
I do remember there was more. There was more than there was a little bit of.
So if you're doing your research, you might be able to come with me with a little bit more.
There was something about what's in my mind, right? And
don't start clutching now. If you haven't done your research, take a step back.
You said that the club had lost its soul.
Oh, where have you pulled that one from?
Am I right?
Quite impressive. Yeah, but you can't pull out a little one-liner suddenly, and like, you know, there was a lot more to it than that. We haven't got the time.
Oh, what have we got?
Endless amounts of time. Back page of the Irish Daily Mail is our destiny. Failures of past will not haunt us, insists Kylie. Cork crash out of Europe. They lost 3-0 to Rosenborg last night. And Martin O'Neill quoted here as well. I'd have kept Stoke in the Premier League, he says. He's adamant he would have kept them up had he been appointed as manager in January. I would have kept Stoke up. I think there was 14 or 15 games left there. I'd have backed myself strongly to keep them up. There were enough games. If you were going in with 4 games left, that's different. Would you have kept them up, I wonder?
But that's it. I mean, what was when did Martin pull out? Did he after the job was given to Paul Lambert? Did Martin publicly come out and say, well, he wasn't, he hadn't put himself forward, or he was? It's a strange thing to say.
My recollection of it was that it was his if he wanted it, and he decided that I'm gonna stay with Ireland.
But that seems a very odd comment to make. And to say if he decided to pull away, he didn't want the job, to come out then and say I would have kept him up.
Well, I think he's saying that if I had taken it, I would have kept him up. Isn't that it?
Yeah.
If I had taken it, so I mean, it's.
He had to think about it and he decided it wasn't a job for him. And we're getting a bit more of an insight into it as well on the back page of the Sun. Dane not out, Martin resolute. Martin O'Neill has revealed that he could have walked away from Ireland last winter, but it seems that the main reason why he didn't was it would have been a pretty bad way to leave any sort of job after a 5-1 trashing. You've also got Dig in Japan. There's TJ Doheney there again. Oath Faithful Day on John Kiley. Sarri plans to catch up. Laid-back manager Maurizio Sarri has allowed his Chelsea stars to go back on the sauce.
Here we go.
The tomato sauce.
These things matter. Don't laugh at them, lads. These things matter to people, I'm telling you.
Does ketchup matter? Does it?
Ketchup matters. In my household, ketchup matters. I'll tell you where it does matter as well. When you're having a bite tea up in Fisbury, you've ordered the poached eggs and bacon and a bit of sourdough toast.
Nice.
You ask for a bit of ketchup, and you almost get shown the door of the restaurant. Wow. Yeah.
That's disgusting.
You're off the bit of tomato relish.
Right. Different sauce entirely.
Well, it's not sauce at all. Tomato is just squashed tomato. Well, it was literally just a squashed tomato. But no, it was a bit of a standoff. No ketchup.
Fibsborough.
It's like, whoa, ketchup. Well, I think so.
Not getting way out of
establishment. That's unprecedented.
I lived in Finsbury years ago, and I mean, you would relish.
But I don't care. Even look, we know there's all these kind of gastro, like high end, a little bit now, restaurant types. But even still, where do these people grow? You know, what I mean, everybody grew up with ketchup on the side of their plate. Brown sauce, maybe.
Well, Kenny, what you need to do is get yourself some of those little sachets and bring them around with you. You know, those little, so you get them pick them up at McDonald's.
No, like just a little pot. Just a little pot. I mean, you don't have to try the sachets. Going to understand. You don't. Some people.
No, but you just bring it with you, just so you're prepared for the occasion.
Just open the inside jacket a bit.
Finsbury needs to come back down to our level.
I don't want to dig out Finsbury. You know, I'm from Finsbury, originally just down the road.
Sounds to me like
this is a general point I'm making. There can't be there shouldn't be any establishment that you can't walk in and ask for a bit of ketchup and be made to feel a little bit small, or even that you're being ridiculed for asking for it. It's a sad day, isn't it?
Oh, listen.
It's like still using a Blockya, isn't it, instead of an iPhone. Back page of the Star this morning is careful what you switch for. O'Neill says Grealish gave up 25 caps. Like, I would have picked a higher number if I was going to make Jack Grealish feel a little bit regretful. Bar says Pogba pursuit. So this is just something that's gone on and on all week.
New contract.
New contract is in the pipeline for sure. So Barcelona are now refusing to give up hope of landing Paul Pogba. I'm not sure was it in the Star yesterday, but there was a report that, or 2 days ago rather, that Paul Pogba was not going to be going to Barcelona. Barcelona had given up on signing Paul Pogba. So it's clearly for the reasons, as Kenny says there, to try and get him a new contract at Manchester United, a bit more money for him.
And this is a ripple effect down from the Sanchez deal, which is always going to be the case. The money that lad's on, and players will know he's on somewhere between £300,000 and £500,000 a week. And people think, it's a one-off, he's a year left, there's not a big field out of fee at 230 million anyway, because Mkhitaryan went the other way. But as soon as he signed on that dotted line for that type of money, straight away, Pogba, David De Gea's agents were immediately shuffling their chair thinking, right, let it just settle for a couple of months and bang, we're straight in. We want parity with this player. So this is the problem. So the Sanchez deal isn't going to cost him just the extent of that one deal. It's going to cost him even more, because Pogba's going to be going in there, his agent, looking for parity, £300,000 to £500,000 a week for a 5-year contract. The guy is going to be an excellent in the door, and this is the problem you create for yourself when you think you're making an exception for one player with Sanchez, but it's not the case, because that ripple effect goes all through the club. Yeah, definitely. Back page of the Herald is Cian is Dub's driver. Gavin, relieved leader, will return to training soon. So Cian O'Sullivan is going to be in the mix, it seems, for the All-Ireland football final. Back page of the Mirror then is Nightmare. Old Trafford legend Ince lays into attention seeker Pogba and claims the United midfield star is playing stupid games. So that's an explosive attack on Jose's new skipper. The captain, the manager, or the Pogba. Well, I would like to think. Either. Who knows? One's as bad as the other. Yeah. And finally for me then, back page of the Guardian this morning is Ben Stokes. He's told to apologise publicly for his street fight, and also the Danny Cipriani story. Over to you, Eddie. Jones will have the final say on Cipriani's England career. Very interesting one. I would not be surprised if Eddie Jones was just like, forget it, come back in. We've got to try and win a World Cup here.